what is the bad points of the addiction to phone, do you think?
I feel like learning about yourself, that's really important to me. And I feel like you can't do that on social media and on your phone because it kind of mirrors, it's not actually teaching you about yourself, it's teaching you what, you should be or what, other people want you to be.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not actually learning anything about yourself on social media.
Then why do you think modern society people are so addicted to social media?
I honestly think it comes from a lack of hobbies. I mean, especially in our generation.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Our second topic would be some technology recession. What I really feel interesting about Australia is Australia banned the cell phone at teenage, I know.
Yeah, I think it's coming through. We haven't completely banned it yet. I think it's
Oh, really?
It's a recent
it's
thing,
a recent
yeah.
thing, so they're trying to make it.
Both of you don't experience of that ban?
No.
It wouldn't affect us anyway. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I think it's 16 and
Under.
under
Yeah.
might be, banned from social media if it passes through.
Then there are a lot of debates about screen time in the world. So on average, how both of you use your screen time? Could you check now?
Yeah, let's check.
Yeah, let's check. It is peak study time, so I'm going to be disappointed if it's a lot.
Yeah, true.
How do you expect?
Okay, my guess. Okay, I'm
What
going
do
to
you
guess. I'm going to try and be optimistic and go 3.5 hours a day.
How
Well,
about you, Daisy?
mine, I did look. Mine is 2 hours and 18 minutes, which I feel like is
Really?
pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, mine's better than I thought too. Mine's 2 hours and 41 minutes.
Really?
High five.
Most of you are so natural.
We practice what we preach.
Yeah, exactly.
Then what is the bad points of the addiction to the technology or phone, do you think?
The reason I don't spend much time on my phone is because I would like to say that I'm very kind of in tune with my body and
Yeah.
aware of my kind of emotions. And I just notice if I go on my phone for too long, I feel pretty shit about myself.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's kind of a starting point. And I think that comes from there's this whole kind of insecurity that comes from social media now, especially in girls, comparing themselves to other girls or what people are doing in their lives. But more for me, it's I feel shit about it because it's by being on here for so long, I'm missing out
That's the
on
thing.
other things that I can be doing. And like I said, I'm a very creative person. So if I'm spending time just scrolling, I'm not getting anything done.
Yeah.
I'm not progressing my script writing skills or I just think about all the things that I could have done in that time, all of the progression I could have made in my education and me learning about the world, and it's all put on pause when I'm on that
Yeah,
phone.
absolutely. And I think when we just described of what we think happiness is to us, and that's being present in the moment,
You're not.
No.
No.
Social media and technology is literally the antidote of happiness. It's
Yeah.
it's the opposite of being present in the moment because you're
Yeah.
able to go to all these different places in split seconds of time, and it's completely the opposite of staying present in
Yeah.
the moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think, like Daisy was saying, when you're on social media, that's time that you could be doing learning about the world and other things. And I know people say, oh, but you can learn about the world on social media and things like that. It's just, I feel like learning about yourself and that's really important to me. I want to get to a stage where I truly understand myself.
And
I feel like you can't do that on social media and on your phone because it kind of mirrors, it's not actually teaching you about yourself, it's teaching you what, you should be or what, other people want you to be.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not actually learning anything about yourself on social media.
Then a lot of people say if they just turn on to TikTok or Reels, something like that, they just think about, just for watching 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
if they watch, it already 1 hour left.
Yeah.
Things like
Time,
that.
the way that time is warped when you're scrolling and things like that is really interesting. 5 minutes, you think 5 minutes go past and actually it's been half an hour, and it's
It's also interesting in reflecting on your memories, because it's if you are spending your days on social media, it's not 10 years from now you're going to be Oh God, I remember that day when I saw that reel about that. like no one's doing it. It's not tangible memories.
No one's creating memories from that.
No, it's not. It's not actually living. Like it's
not.
genuine. Like the definition of the word of living, it's not that. Like it is.
Whatever the opposite is,
Yeah.
it's that. Yeah.
But if we see the Instagram or things like that, we just use 1 hour or 2 hours, things like that. But both of your screen time is very low. So how do you manage your social media time? Or
I feel like it's not something for me anyway that I consciously manage. I think, you know, there are times when I might be particularly susceptible and then I'll have to be like, no, you know, you're not going to go on, you know, you're not going to scroll on reels right now. Like it would be better for you to do this. But apart from that, it's not something I'm consciously aware of.
I mean, for me, it started from I set like a time limit. So we also got rid of TikTok recently.
We deleted TikTok.
A couple months ago, we both deleted TikTok. But before that, I had like a 1 hour time limit between Instagram and TikTok. So I could only spend an hour on social media. And that definitely did help. But also another thing which I've kind of fallen behind is my parents always taught me to never have my phone in my room. Like it was a big thing that you would leave, like as you were going to bed, you would leave your phone like in the living room on charge. And that's definitely something that's impacted me now because obviously I don't live with them anymore and I have to have my phone in my room. Then I do have a tendency to kind of scroll before I go to sleep. But I feel so awful like about it. Like I genuinely do, and I can struggle to sleep as well because my mind's still like stimulated from all the things I've seen. So that's also another technique though, is like just not having it near you before you go to bed, like because I think that is definitely a time when you are susceptible to just
absolutely
scroll.
For me, I think unlike Daisy, it wasn't a rule in my house. We had to leave your phone out. I've always had it in my room, and I think almost because of that, it might mean it's almost like I compare it to, you know, a friend that I had in childhood that was never allowed sugar. And then when she came to my house and we could have like sugar, like a biscuit or something, she'd go nuts and she'd, you know, eat all of them at once. I think it's kind of similar to that, where it's like I've always had access to my phone in those kind of vulnerable moments. But because, I don't know, because I've always had access to it, I've never splurged really. So like I've always just had a rule for myself that, you know, I'm using my phone, whatever, like, but in the last, you know, maybe half an hour before I actually go to sleep, I'm not touching my phone and I'm reading. Or I'm, you know, listening to music. You know, obviously you have to use your phone for that, but you know, you're lying there listening to music. And I fall asleep really, really quickly, so I don't have the same, you know, problems. But yeah, I think it's just really important. I think it also teaches you, self-control and discipline, which is so helpful in other areas of life as well.
then why do you think modern society people are so addicted to the dopamine or social media?
Yeah.
I honestly think it comes from a lack of hobbies. I mean, especially in our generation, because I think phones sort of came in just as we were becoming teenagers.
We're
And so
lucky that we didn't have it in childhood,
really.
yeah.
And so it's kind of like in childhood, obviously, you have a kind of awareness of what you love to do and your passions and stuff. And then it's like almost like when these phones started coming in teenage years, people would use their time for phones so they wouldn't develop these hobbies, and then they lose track of that and they come to this conclusion of, oh well, what else is there to do? Like I think the deepest tragedy I find is when people say, like, in any circumstance, say that they're bored, or like they like, oh well, what would I do without my phone? Like, because I genuinely think that is a deep tragedy, because in this world there is just endless things that you can do, and endless things that you can create, endless things you can learn, and obviously you can learn through YouTube and social media, but I think people are losing sight of things that they can do.
And it's sad because it stops them from, you know, maybe finding new hobbies or things that, you know, they've never thought of doing, that it might be their favourite thing. Like it could be that's, you know, they love doing that, but they'll never know because they're not getting out there and trying, they're just on their phone. And my grandfather, like when I was little, even before, you know, we had phones, like, you know, as a kid you go, I'm bored, and then, you know, he'd point to his massive bookshelf behind him with genuinely hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, and he'd just say something like in a really, you know, grand kind of way, and he'd go, how could one ever be bored when there are books. And he'd just gesture to this big library and I'd roll my eyes and I'd be like, yeah, whatever. But it's true. Like all someone needs to do in their spare time, if they don't feel like, I don't know, skydiving or doing anything crazy adventurous, then just sit at a park and read a book. And it's such a beautiful thing because I'll never feel guilty if I just spend a day reading. And I'm like, yes, I could have been doing this and that, but it's like, no, but I was reading. And I love reading and it's something I love to do. So I could just spend hours reading and it's not going to be wasted time for me.
Or like, for example, for me, like even last night, because I have kind of created this tendency to like scroll on my phone before I go to bed. Last night I just had energy and I didn't want to do that. And so I was kind of looking through my diary and at these kind of creative pieces that I'd written, and I started kind of typing them up and sort of like writing my own poetry and like I just felt so much more fulfilled than if I had sat using that time to just scroll on social media. Like I just think doing tangible things in the real world is such a better thing.
We just talk about technology this session, but what I think we really talk about is how to live fulfilled life. So I just want to ask you, what is the fulfilled life means to you?
Fulfilled life. Always spend time with people that you love and people that love you. I think to love and to be loved is probably one of the most important things to me in life. And I think I will always be somewhat fulfilled if I'm with my family or my best friends. And I think there's a certain amount of hiding away in social media that kind of stops you from doing that.
Yeah, I think for me it's just to kind of maintain curiosity and follow my passions to kind of the deepest levels that I can. And I think honestly I feel like fulfillment is getting to a place where you're fully comfortable with yourself and that you love yourself. And I mean, I guess if we were to bring that back to technology, I don't think that's attainable if you are constantly distracting yourself through social media. I think there's a lot of power in being able to sit with yourself and to reflect on yourself in the context of the world and where you fit. And I think to be truly fulfilled, you have to get to a place where you love yourself.
And that's not attainable on social media, because I mean, I know I've noticed the more I spend on social media, the more I won't be happy with myself because of the endless, comparison and things on social media. I've definitely been a victim to that, and that's made me because I've actually seen like what it's done, what it did to me. I think it made me very aware of, like, okay, that's definitely not something that you can be doing a lot during the day, because it's just destroying this perception you have of yourself. I think fulfillment does come from loving yourself, and you can't love yourself when you're told that there's a million better versions of yourself out there in the world, like a million better ways you could look, a million better ways you could behave in a certain scenario. Like, it's just endless comparison. It's not worthwhile at all.
Then do you love yourself?
Yeah, I think I've gotten to a place where I can.
Then what makes you love yourself?
We're just really great.
We're just awesome. We're just really cool. I think one of the reasons I love myself is because I believe in what I stand for and my morals, and coming from a really incredible upbringing with surrounded by great morals, I think has built me into a person today where I know if I was someone else, I would want to be around myself. And I think that's a really important thing
that's great. Yeah, I think I love myself because I pursue the things I love. Yeah. And I know that for a lot of people, they get scared to kind of put themselves out there because of what other people think, but I don't let that stop me. And I value that in myself. And I also just think that I'm a positive person that gives back to other people, and I think that's a really important thing to do, to be able to be there for other people
Yeah.
and put other people before yourself. I think that's a good quality of
Yeah,
myself.
absolutely. And I think loving yourself also comes with loving, you know, well, not loving, but accepting, you know, your own flaws and accepting there are, you know, that no one's perfect and that there's always room for growth. And I think, you know, but like being okay with that, because I know if I had this expectation of myself, you know, that was just completely exceeding what I am, you know, I'd never be happy with myself because I'd never get there. So I think accepting all of who you are is definitely a key to loving yourself as well. Yeah.
And I think also a lot of loving yourself comes from loving your internals over your externals.
For sure.
Obviously, I think that you need to come to a place where you love how you look, but I just think that's so surface level, and I think we do live in a society where that's really valued, how you look, but I think
especially as women as well. Like.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of value of yourself. Like I honestly reckon all the value of yourself should come from inside and not placing importance on how you look, which I wouldn't say that I'm amazing at doing. I still place importance on that, but
everyone will. But I think knowing that, you know, the most important part of you and, you know, the closest to, you know, your soul, I guess, that you can get is deep within you, and it's not going to be found on the outside.
Yeah.
Like that's the most important thing.
Definitely.
I think this topic would be finished too. So this is my main question in every interview. What do you think is the most underestimated value in this modern society?
Underestimated. Like undervalued?
Yes, undervalued.
Undervalued, yeah. That's a really good question.
Hard.
That is hard. I haven't really thought about that before.
Maybe I would say to a certain extent emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot to be said for like intelligence, as in kind of academic intelligence and knowledge and how much you know, but I don't necessarily think that we're taught to be emotionally intelligent. We're taught to be I think it's kind of a systematic thing in schools that the whole point of schooling is to become academically intelligent, but there's no emphasis on emotional intelligence. But I think coming back to everything that we've spoken about and what success is and fulfillment, I think those things can only be granted through emotional intelligence and having an understanding of yourself. And I don't think we're educated in how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, not in schools at least. Like I came from a family that very much valued emotional intelligence and understanding yourself. So that's why I have emphasis on it, but I know
not everyone.
That's not the case for everyone else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would probably say that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I was kind of thinking on a similar kind of wavelength of
One
Go on.
that we have spoken about.
Have we?
Forgiveness. Forgiveness is not granted anymore.
That's the one. That's the one.
Because we live in a society that is
people hold grudges.
It's cancel culture.
There's
this whole thing.
Oh my God. This is it.
Of forgiveness and this lack of belief that humans can change. And it is the most toxic thing.
It's awful.
And we have experienced it in our own lives through through gossip and kind of people making up things and putting labels on people, saying that they've done awful things.
Yeah.
And, you know, this not necessarily being true or some part of it being true, whatever it is, but
they'll slap
idea
a
that
label
you'll
on
just,
it and then we're meant to hate them for the rest of our lives.
And then we're meant to cut these people off.
Awful.
And especially in high schools, it is so tragic because it's these people who are still figuring out what's wrong and what's right.
Absolutely. It's damaging reputations before people get that maturity and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it's not allowing people to fail.
It's not letting people grow.
And I think it's just very upsetting because everyone should be given a second chance. Just because someone does something awful doesn't mean they're an awful person.
Yeah.
And by shutting people off, we're not teaching them anything.
Exactly.
By telling people that they're an awful person, that's not giving them the platform to actually grow and develop themselves.
Yeah.
So I would say forgiveness is very much undervalued.
Absolutely.
In society.
And I'm not trying to, this is very much like a classic what a criminology student would say, but like I think that's also mirrored in the justice system and how, you know, maybe punitive systems, you know, that's focused on harsh punishments, you know, proportionality in terms of the punishment fitting the crime, rather than, you know, focusing on restorative justice and actually letting people understand the weight of their crime or their wrongdoing and actually allowing them to learn from it and allowing the two parties to be in, you know, to forgive one another, I think is just so important. And I think that should be the future of justice systems, because no one's gonna, that's why recidivism, like reoffending rates are so high for people, especially young people that go to prison. They get out, they just reoffend and go to prison again because it's not teaching them their mistakes. It's not actually, they're not understanding the weight of their wrongdoing. So I think forgiveness, to an extent obviously, is just so important.
Very good answer.
Yes, thank you for jumping in with that, because that's genuinely, like, we talk about it so much. Yeah.
Then one more question. What's your biggest insecurity in this moment?
Maybe that I'm not as good as I think I am at things. Like I
was
like...
genuinely going to say the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like not practicing what I preach enough and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, well I more mean like, because I feel like this year especially I've found a lot of, I mean this might go against how we define success, but I have found a lot of success, like especially through getting into this school and doing film. But I guess I feel like my insecurities about my talents just ebb and flow so much, especially this year, and being surrounded by so many people who are also like very talented at what they do. I find myself kind of comparing, and where it once was kind of my strong suit because I had no one else who was good at making films, now I'm like, am I actually that good? Like, do I actually have anything to say? And yeah, I feel like a lot of insecurity comes from that, but it also, that insecurity kind of fuels my drive to get better and to continue to get better in myself. Yeah.
I was thinking like being, you know, it's kind of hard to explain, but being very, you know, understanding and working things out in my mind, but then not being able to like execute that physically. I think, you know, I have, you know, an idea of exactly who I am and who I want to be, but I have an insecurity that I'm not portraying that.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, but then I reassure myself that I'm only 19 and that comes with experience and age and things. But because in my head I feel older and I feel more experienced, and I'm like, I don't think I'm actually representing that through my actions and personality and things like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Maybe it would be the time to finish. So if there's anything that you want to say, do you want to say more? Anything?
Is there anything else you feel like you needed to say?
I'm not sure.
Nothing comes to mind, but
yeah,
I guess maybe just, I don't know, reiterate that we're still learning, you know, kind of, you know, I'm not expecting our positions about life to stay the same forever, and I'm constantly reminding myself that things may change and things might not go to plan, and, you know, your attitudes about certain things might change, and that's normal. Yeah, like in terms of my career aspirations, like I feel like I have a drive and I have an end goal of, you know, where I want to end up, but also being okay with that to change along the way. And, you know, that's the kind of journey I'm on, is, you know, reminding myself that anything can happen and that things, won't always go to plan, and to adapt and to, you know, always just try and do the right thing.
Yeah, I think a certain part of life comes from resilience. I think life is really how you react to what happens to you, because you can't control everything that happens to you. So I don't know, I also feel like it's funny because we're only 19, but I feel like we have a lot of opinions on life and stuff, and I'm actually glad that we did this interview and that we have it on record, because I'm very intrigued to see how it changes.
Me too.
Because I think it's the whole thing of, like, I remember reading somewhere about how teenagers, or younger people think that they've got it all figured out.
And we don't.
And that's what people kind of criticize them for, because we're stubborn in our beliefs.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, what would they know, because they haven't lived life.
Yeah.
So I honestly take everything we say with a grain of salt, because I'm just intrigued to see
Yeah.
how we differ and if our morals kind of stay the same as we kind of experience life.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we've only been here for 19 years. We can only really remember everything from what, like 10. So you know, there's so much more to experience, and there's so much more room for change in our stance
Yeah,
and our opinions of the world.
that's very exciting.
It's exciting. It's just the beginning.